Hello, this is Reverend Barbara Kawa coming to you from the homestead. I'm here tonight to do a master class on pendulums. Those are the ones that we use to ask yes or no questions, to get some information, possibly to answer whatever it is that we're looking for. So we're going to talk about some truths and myths about pendulums tonight as well, so that you know how to actually use them and access the information. What I'd like to start out with first is a little bit of history about pendulums. So I'm going to go to my trusty computer here and read what it says about pendulums. So the definition of a pendulum is a body suspended from a fixed point so that it can swing back and forth under the influence of gravity. Pendulums are used to regulate the movement of clocks because the interval of time for each complete oscillation, called the period, is constant. The Italian scientist Galileo first noted, circa 1593, the constancy of a pendulum's period by comparing the movement of a swinging lamp in a Pisa cathedral with his pulse rate. The Dutch mathematician and scientist Christian Huygens invented a clock controlled by the motion of a pendulum in 1656. The priority of invention of the pendulum clock has been ascribed to Galileo by some authorities and Huygens by others. But Huygens solved the essential problem of making the period of a pendulum truly constant by devising a pivot that caused the suspended body, or bob, to swing along the arc of a cycloid rather than that of a circle. So that's to tell you like where they started to discover pendulums themselves. And then later on, where we actually started using them to answer questions. And that would be what intuitive people would do, and they would then use it to ask these questions. So pendulums have been around for many, 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 many years. As you can see, they discovered them back in like 1656. And so therefore, we've been doing this for a while now. So a thing or two may have come about. And the spiritual movement or the intuitive movement actually made this come to light as to how we can actually use it to answer our own questions. First, we're going to start off with what is a pendulum? So a pendulum is something that is suspended on the end of a wire, a rope, a chain, anything with what they called the bob at the bottom here. And this actually uses gravity to make it move. So you can see as it's swinging. And at the top of this one is a little bit of a ball so that you can hold it between your fingers. And so it can actually be made out of all kinds of different materials, wood, crystal, there's so many metal, all kinds of different things you can use it from. You can, like this one is aqua aura, which means that it is a crystal, a quartz crystal that has been dipped in the aqua aura metallic solution, which amplifies that solution on the pendulum. It doesn't affect how well the pendulum is going to work. So this pendulum, you know, I saw it, I liked it, I tried it, it worked for me. So it was my very first one that I ever bought. And, you know, I loved it, still love it, still use it. And so it doesn't matter what it's made out of. It really depends on what you want to use it for. And also the type of pendulum really doesn't affect how well it works. You can use almost anything as a pendulum. I've used a necklace in a pinch. I've even used one of my, not the cordless earbud, but an earbud that had a cord attached to it. Because the earbud itself has a weight to it, you can still use it as a pendulum. People have taken rocks and attached them to a piece of string and used that as a pendulum. So you can use almost anything as long as it's got some sort of attachment, like a string or a rope or something that can freely move. You wouldn't want to use a wire because wires are stiff, and it might make it a little more difficult to be able to actually move the pendulum. So it doesn't really matter which type it is, as long as it's something that appeals to you and that works with you. Because some pendulums, depending, may not work with your energy. And how do you know that? Well, by actually using it. And I'll show you in a few minutes how you actually use the pendulum or get it to work. So I'll show you how I do yes, no. Okay, and so now we know what materials it's made out of and that kind of thing. That's very, very helpful. And so when you have your pendulum and you use it for different things, so what I'm going to do, like some people like to use it where they hold this top part all by itself. I've seen people wind it around their finger and then use it that way. I prefer to just have it suspended and hanging from that ball. And for these purposes, it is a little bit long, so I'm going to go a little bit further back to show you how I use it. So what you have to do is you have to calibrate the pendulum to you. What that means is that you have to get it to say yes or no. And mine's already going, it's already saying yes. And it's just because I'm talking. I have a very good connection with my pendulums. So even as I talk, they'll say yes and no to whatever it is I'm talking about. It's actually quite funny. So I could sit here and talk the whole night and right now it's saying no. Okay, you can stop now. And so usually what you do when you're going to ask it questions is you want to have it braced against either your body, so like by your side or on a table or something like this. It's just so that there's stability, unless you can keep your hand really, really still. And I'm very, very good at keeping my hand really, really still. So I can show you when I go pendulum, show me yes. So it's much easier if I have my hand down on something. So I'm going to put it onto, I can even use the other hand. Okay. Pendulum, show me yes. Nice big yes. Show me yes. Nice big yes. Okay, thank you. Now, pendulum, show me no. So you can see my hand is completely straight and still. And for each person, it'll be different. It may be similar or the same as mine. However, it may be different for you. So you have to calibrate your own pendulum to make it say yes or no. I should say, ask it to say yes or no. And that's how you calibrate. Every time you use your pendulum, you have to calibrate it. Otherwise, it might decide that maybe today it'll swing a different way. So some pendulums swing back and forth, some pendulums side to side, some pendulums do circles this way, some of them counterclockwise. So it really depends on you and how you calibrate it. So that's why I like to actually pick up the pendulum and see if it works for me. Do you want to know how a pendulum actually works, why it moves? it's a really cool thing. It doesn't move all by itself without any type of movement. Within our fingertips are teeny tiny little muscles, teeny, teeny, itty bitty tiny muscles. And that's what actually moves the pendulum. It's not some phantom ghost. It's not your angels. It's actually moved through you, through your fingers. That's the mystery of the pendulum. So when you're using your pendulum, it's realizing that that's how it works. So mine's saying yes. And you know what it connects to? It connects to your higher self. And by connecting to your higher self, that means you can only ask it questions pertaining to yourself. You cannot ask questions about someone else. So you can't say something like, is this the person of my dreams? Am I going to marry them? Well, you're asking about that other person. Is this someone I can trust? You're asking about the other person. Is this, the painting I should buy? That's asking something personal, and your pendulum can then give you a yes or no answer. It must be a yes or no answer, or question, I should say, because it can only do yes or no. You have to be very clear that it's a yes or no question, such as, and it has to do with yourself. So, I like to use it to choose crystals when I'm at the store. So when I'm at a metaphysical store and I need to choose crystals, this reminds me of a story. I was at a metaphysical store, and I was sitting in a chair not too far from where all the pendulums were. I was going to say hiding, but that's not the word, where they were all situated, hanging on this little pendulum tree. And so I was sitting there and I was thinking, you know what? I need to pick out some crystals, particular ones that I was thinking might be helpful. And so I was looking at the pendulums, and I was thinking, I wonder which one I could borrow, just for this purpose, because I didn't have mine on me and I didn't have anything that I could use as a pendulum. So I'm looking at them, and there's this one starts swinging back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, which is generally my yes. So it was already saying yes before I even went to pick it up. So I go and I pick it up, and I go to different areas of the store, doing it with my intuition, not by what type of crystals they were. And so I'm going around, oh, do I need this one? Yes or no? Do I need this one? Yes or no? And then when I found the ones that were resonating with me and also with the pendulum, I then started taking some of them out and asking the pendulum whether or not I should take that one home. And so I wait for, I did calibrate it, and I wait for it to say yes or no. Then after I was done, I looked at the pendulum and I go, oh no. Okay, pendulum, do you want to come home with me? That was a very vigorous yes. So I was like, okay. I guess I'm taking home, this particular pendulum. And it served me well. I enjoy it. I have many different types, some copper, some wood, some are crystals. Yeah, they tend to want to come home with me. So it's a lot of fun, especially when you walk by the crystal, where the pendulums are hanging, and they're all swinging as you walk by. It's like, oh, okay. No, I don't take them all home. However, I think it's really hilarious when they all start swinging when you walk by. And that shows that they respond to vibration. So when you're holding them in your fingers, they respond to your vibration. So getting back to the questions and answers, it's making sure that you're very clear about what it is you want to ask, that it's a yes or a no. Now, sometimes we don't like what the answer is. So we try to be sneaky and ask it the same thing in a different way. Well, because it's connected to your higher self isn't stupid. And it will actually then start swinging all kinds of weird ways and stuff like this, or it won't swing or something like that, just to let you know what, that's it for today. No more asking that same question just to get the answer that you really want. So that's not the kind of thing you want to do with a pendulum. And so that's basically what it does. So pendulums are really good, not like yes and no is fun. I use it for, should I eat this particular food right now? So as an example, should I have a peanut butter jam sandwich to eat right now? And that's a good way to, see if your body really needs that particular thing or not. It's never, ever, ever, ever a good idea to use it for major decisions, business decisions, work related. So you don't ask it, should I quit my job? It's not the time to be asking the pendulum for that kind of answer. It's for more of the simple type of things, things that don't require there to be any real elaborate question and answer. Yes, it is connected to your higher self. However, those kinds of things, like whether you should quit your job, whether you should find another job, whether you should, take this course, might be more suited to perhaps doing a card reading, going to a reader and asking the questions, or asking some strategic questions to get you the answers, such as, is it going to take me closer to my goal or further from my goal? And that's a really good question to ask yourself without having to use the pendulum. A good way to test whether or not you and your pendulum are working well together, or to test your own, to see how the pendulum actually works for you, is using a deck of cards. And I'm talking playing cards, with the red and black and with the 4 different suits. Yeah. And then what you do is you shuffle the cards. And then you deal them out, so you can deal as many as you want, 2, 3, 4 cards. Then you hold your pendulum so they're facing down, obviously, so you don't know what they are. So you can take your pendulum above it and ask it, is this red? And see what it says, yes or no. And if it says yes, as an example, you can ask it, is this hearts? And it'll tell you yes or no. You can also then ask it, if it says no, is it diamonds? So you can have some fun with it and get a real feel for whether or not it's something that you want to do. Now, in the beginning, your pendulum may or may not work with you, in the sense that if you're not getting a clear yes or no, then you need to be more patient, or maybe it's time to try a different pendulum. So my suggestion and recommendation is that when you're in the store looking to choose a pendulum, then what you need to do is test them out. See if they will do yes or no for you. I also like to add in maybe, because just in case, maybe it really isn't a yes or no answer. And so therefore, by adding in maybe, then you can have the option that it'll tell you maybe. Maybe can also mean not yet. So as an example, you might ask it, should I eat this peanut butter jam sandwich now? And it might give you a maybe, possibly meaning not yet. Maybe you need to go and, get something else, or maybe, whoever knows what's going to happen. And so therefore, have that maybe added in there. And again, you need to calibrate it every single time you use your pendulum. I've seen people use pendulums for other things. I use it for either raising my metabolism. I've used it for raising my immunity so that my immune system's strong. And if you want to know more about that, then you can send me a message, give me a call, and I can teach you how to use your pendulum for those things. It's really, really fascinating, the different things you can use it for. And just making sure that you use it only for yes or no questions, because then you're using it for what it's meant for. Now, I have read that the accuracy of the pendulum isn't that high. I think the accuracy is high when you have the proper question to ask, and also how connected you are to your higher self. The more connected you are to your higher self, then the clearer the answer will be. Now, for those of you who are wondering what the higher self is, it is the version of ourselves that actually has no ego. So therefore, it is the best coach for us. It knows us well and is able to guide us on what we need to do in this lifetime. So the higher self is someone, I guess you could say, because it's you. So it's a being of you, part of you, that can help you to actually do what you need to do while you're here on this planet. So it's really, really good to be able to use the tool of, and it's a tool of divination, to use the tool in its proper way so that you can get the most out of your pendulum. And remember, you can use anything basically. So if you don't want to have to go out and buy one, make yourself one and get to know it and use it for different things. And it also, it also can help to have you work with your chakras. Barbara Brennan, who runs a school in the United States and does a lot of energy healing. It's a very, very cool modality. She discovered that when you use your pendulum to help understand if there are any blocks or anything like this, so she has a particular protocol that she uses. So don't just stand there in front of, with your friend holding your pendulum, watching it swing back and forth and doing circles and all this, thinking that you're getting some information, unless you do it properly the way it was intended. However, it can give some really great insights in a snapshot of that moment of what's going on in your chakras. So as you can see, there are many different ways to actually use a pendulum for many different purposes. Not only for your grandfather clock, it's also meant to assist you in learning more about yourself, because after all, you are connecting to your higher self. So this is Reverend Barbara Kawa coming at you from the homestead. If you would like to get in contact with me, go to my website at www.barbarakawa.com. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you've enjoyed this little tidbit on pendulums.